first thing is, probably the most important thing, is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. To know that if you feel comfortable all the time, something is wrong. This could be if you're teaching the same sequence every week, the same poses, or if you only do public classes because you're a bit afraid or anxious about doing workshops or events, or if you don't have the confidence to do a retreat, you don't feel like you're ready to be on a teacher training course, to be a trainer, you're never going to be ready. That's the truth. You can only prepare as best as you can, but you figure out by learning, by making mistakes. And through discomfort comes growth. That's me, Kevin, and this is the Christmas special of the Yoga Life podcast. Hello there, welcome to the Christmas special of the Yoga Life podcast. Or I haven't decided fully what to call it. I'm thinking my year in review, or what I learned, my lessons from 2018. But it's the end of the year. I am reflecting on everything that's happened in the last 12 months. And it's been pretty eventful. I wouldn't call these the highlights. I would say they are events that I won't forget. And I'm not here to preach. I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing what's happened to me, and hopefully what I learned, and if that resonates with you and helps to give you some value, that'd be great. So let's start with the start of the year, January, February. Well, I mean, January was great because I started teaching a new class, the Elbowroom, which is where I did my 200 hours. So it was quite surreal to be going in to be the teacher at the place you were the student. And it was felt very significant, and be able to see old faces. And I must say it was quite difficult. I had massive imposter syndrome. Because you're surrounded by people that a few months before that you were next to them on the mat as the student. So that's something I had to get over. And I started teaching more workshops as well. But probably the most significant thing that happened in the start of the year was in February, when I went to India. Okay, so let me give a bit of context first before I get into this. I was going to do a whole episode on my experience in India, because it was pretty epic. So some context. India's massive. I mean, I've got the research, the numbers. There's 1.3 billion people there. If you put that into context, there's about 738 million only in the whole of Europe, over 50 countries. So India is huge. There's 29 states, and they all speak different languages, or a lot of them speak different languages. So it's you can't make a brushing statement about India itself. So I'll give you a breakdown as to my experience and where I went, more importantly, because every state has its own culture. And so how it came about that I went to India was one of my students, who'd only been coming to my classes for a few months, asked me if I would be interested in going to India with them. They are Indian, to teach a one-day retreat to the largest news company in Bengal. This was a bit confusing for me. In other words, why would they want an English guy to go to India and teach yoga to Indians? I didn't get it. What could I possibly offer that they don't already have? After having a meeting and speaking about the requirements in a bit more detail, they said that they would need me to go over to do a couple of talks. One of the talks was on nutrition, and the other one was on exercise to manage stress. And then threaded in through that, I was going to teach them some yoga. So it sounded like a great offer, and it was a great offer on the face of it, maybe to some people. I went over there with my flight paid for. I I mean, India's far away. Sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it takes days to get over the jet lag. I was there for a week. So by the time I was getting over it, it was almost time to go home. I was put in an interesting accommodation, Gold Park, which is the Ramakrishna Institute of Culture. So it was quite cool because I was living like where they invite scholars and people who can bring culture to India. And I was put up full board. People brought me food to my room, brought me tea, and that was quite interesting and pretty cool than just staying in a hotel. But this was in Kolkata, and I have to say the people that invited me there and their family and friends couldn't have been nicer. They were so accommodating, so they treated me like I was one of their sons, which is great. But Calcutta is unbelievably polluted. My hair was matted. I was in the shower twice a day trying to wash my hair, thinking my hair is stuck together. And it's because of the pollution. It was actually in the Times of India that month that Kolkata was the worst polluted city in India. I mean, I witnessed a guy taking care of waste disposal, rubbish, bit of bin man, by essentially brushing all the rubbish into a big pile on the street and then burning it. Okay, right. So it was really, really dirty. It was incredibly noisy, just constant traffic beep, people beeping their horns constantly, really overcrowded. I not only was I jet lagged, but if I wasn't eating like really nice curry, which my host made me, which is unbelievable and great, but if I wasn't eating that, the only other choice was really high processed food. That was the most common thing I was eating. So I didn't go to the toilet for like 3 days, and I heard that's actually jet lag affects you as well. Sorry, that's a bit TMI. I mean number 2, not number 1. I know, sorry, TMI, but I was all out of sorts. It was really difficult to get from place to place. I had my own driver, which was great, but the actual journey itself, I thought, I'm taking my life into my hands every time I get into a car. There's potholes everywhere. People were ducking and diving. I'd try to put on a seatbelt. The seatbelt would be tucked behind the seat, and the driver would say, "Oh, you don't need a seatbelt. I'm a good driver." I said, "I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about everyone else crashing into us." Yeah, that was one to forget, Calcutta. I mean, never again. It was just unbearable. It really was. It was hell for me. Couldn't wait to get out of there. Yes, okay. And then I went from there to Kerala. This was better. Mind you, it was right down in the tip of India, so it was a lot of lakes, and they have they're right near the sea, so there was mosquitoes everywhere. So sleeping was really difficult because they were constantly buzzing in your ears, and this was in February, so that's the mozzie season supposedly. Kerala, the food was delicious, the people were lovely. There's loads to do as a tourist, and you can fly directly there from the Middle East, just to let you know if you're thinking of going. My last stop, third and final stop, was Goa. I went to Agonda Beach. Now, this was paradise. The moment I stepped out of arrivals, driver was there, massive smile, this young geezer, taxi driver holding up a big sign saying Mr. Kevin. I thought, yeah, I'm happy here. The people were so chilled and friendly. It was actually surprising in a good way, because it was like being in a different country. But then why wouldn't they be chill? They're living in Goa. So if your idea of a good time is white sandy beaches and actually a warm sea, I couldn't believe it. It was like a bath. When I went in, I was shaking my head when I first went into the sea. I was like, I can't believe this, how warm this is. But yeah, if that's your idea of a good time, friendly people, delicious food, go to Goa. Now, so just a few tips because I'm trying to share some lessons that I've learned, some tips for Goa. tips for being in India is to reduce travel as much as you can. So, because queuing doesn't exist, it's not within the culture there, which is fair enough. But queuing actually works quite well. Whoever thought of queuing, well done, bravo, it works. Weigh up the advantages if you're going on activities or like sightseeing versus the travel involved, because, like I said, getting from place to place is a disaster. Download as much content as you can if you need to re-listen to, because the Wi-Fi is really hard to find. Bring a hat, bring repellent for mosquitoes, and try not to have minimal chemicals, and bring vegetables or healthy snacks if you like to go. If you enjoy going to the bathroom. All right, that's enough about India. March. That was just February. They're not as long each month. That was just a massive highlight for me in February. March I started recording the first episode of the Yoga Life podcast. Yay! Episode 0. And I also started my Bryce 300-hour teacher training. Which is episode 1. If you scroll to episode 1 of this podcast, you can find out more about the first half of the Bryce 300-hour TT. April, I started climbing. Started training Jiu Jitsu with PLanet. And I was told that I'd be teaching at Wellfest, which was pretty exciting. May, I'm scrolling from my Instagram here. May, sunny days, down the Phoenix Park, sea swimming with the happy pair. The Yoga Life podcast officially launched. I taught yoga in the park with happenings for the first time, which is really cool. And and then by the end of May, I actually taught at Wellfest. So Wellfest was a huge highlight for me. It was a pretty magical experience. I went there, and as soon as I walked in, they affixed the bracelet to my arm and had the words presenter sewn into it. And I thought, wow, man. By the way, shout out to Sue from Yoga Hub for recommending me. It's meant a lot to me. But yeah, as soon as I went through the gate, I thought, this is unbelievable. I was here 2 years ago, and I said to my sister, Kaz, one day I'll be on that stage, jokingly. And this is when I was still working in my office job. And 2 years later I was. But anyway, so I walked through the entrance, and first person to come up to me was Brian Keane of Brian Keane Fitness. He stopped me to say hello. I couldn't believe he recognised me. To congratulate me on the podcast. So it was crazy. Like, I thought, this is someone that I've really admired for years. Loved their podcast. He's got a massive podcast in Ireland, and they're congratulating me on my podcast. I thought, wow, okay, that's a bit of a pat on the back. Things like that keep you going. My sister came to the class that I was teaching. There was yogis from my public classes there. I met Patrick Beach in the green room. Then we finished the day off with barefoot in the grass, in the sun, with the Patrick Beach workshop with my sister on one side and the yoga fam on the other. So it was amazing, magical experience. June is a month I'd rather forget. It's broke up with my girlfriend. She broke up with me, more accurately. However, I mean, no one ever likes to break up. However, at the end of June, I started my yin teacher training with Josh Summers, and it couldn't have come at a better time, to be honest. I really needed to heal. I mean, no one likes rejection, do they? So I became that part of the year. I became a lot more reflective and, I suppose, compassionate, because that's what yin teaches you, to let go, to look inside yourself a bit more, and as opposed to achieving physical strength, it's about opening up. And it brought out a side of me in late June about how to use yoga as a vehicle to heal others. And there was this time that I posted on Instagram about my intention to start workshops for men in aid of suicide prevention, because the stats are shocking, as you probably know already, in Ireland. So July, bounced back, got heavily into jiu-jitsu, which is what I needed, a bit of physicality, some brotherhood. And then July, August came. I had to give up the jiu-jitsu because I started my second half of Bryce teacher training. It was of the you can hear about that if you listen to episode 12. That has all the details. Yeah. Or also in August, my best mate immigrated, which was sad because now I've got no friends. I've got some, but he's my best mate, I've known him for 10 years, and he's gone to Boston. Shout out to Bryce if he's listening. September, PB, Patrick Beach, that's what I call him now, we're pals. He had his workshop here, and that was pretty cool. So obviously I did the podcast episode with Patrick Beach as well. I shot a mini movie, didn't you know? And yeah, this was a strange experience. There's a guy who was at my jiu-jitsu gym. He's a filmmaker, and he used to go to my hot class as well. And I can't remember if I asked him or if he asked me or who suggested it, but we shot a mini movie together about my yoga journey. To be honest, it was a bit awkward because I was essentially acting. The short film is going to be out early next year, supposedly. So yeah, check out my Instagram for that. Probably I'll put it on the highlights section at the top of the profile page. But yeah, short film, only a minute long. But who knows what doors that could open. I must say I did enjoy it, but it's just awkward doing something like that for the first time when you're trying to pretend like you're not being filmed. Good to be awkward though. I'll tell you about that later when I give you my advice towards the end of this episode. October time, Yoga for Men workshop. Did my first one ever with a little company called Lululemon. Don't know if you heard of them. But I stopped teaching yoga, hot yoga at Yoga Hub, and I started teaching at Samadhi, which is a big deal for me because I've always wanted to teach there. And you've got a really high caliber of teachers. I love the chap that owns it, Greg Walsh. Shout out to Greg. And it's just a cool little studio in Temple Bar. So that was a big deal for me. I had my first ever student walk out, not in Samadhi. But this was a first for me. That was another thing I remember about October. I spoke about this on Instagram, but yeah, I was teaching class and the person was walked in late, threw the mat down, okay, and did their own thing. I mean, didn't follow the pace of the class or what I was teaching at all. Okay, it's interesting. And looked at me as if Christmas was cancelled. And I thought, what is going on here? And then just stood up and walked out after about 20 minutes. I was like, okay. So, yeah, first one of those. Hopefully the last, it's not ideal, but you don't know what's going on in people's lives. And, hopefully that person is okay now. End of October, which was the bank holiday, I went to an eco-village. Now, this is, to be honest, loneliness has been an issue for me in recent years. I felt like sometimes I really miss the lack of community because I'm a really sociable person. And it made me think about how I don't need my neighbours. I don't know anyone around me really, immediately around me. And it's weird that when I go to bed at night, the person on the other side of the wall, I'll never speak to them. To me, that's bizarre. So I went down to this eco-village and to check it out, really. I mean, it's down in Tipperary. It was interesting. Everyone knows their neighbours down there. There's only 50 households, so there's one street light, so you can see every star in the sky. And I think it's a great place to go to bring up children. We went for myself and my girlfriend, current girlfriend now, hopefully future girlfriend as well. we went to this garden to plate feast where the host grew all his own food and cooked all his own food and got chatting to the neighbours and all the villagers around the table. There was like 25 people there in his house. It's crazy. And he said that it turns out he said the host and a few other people, they have to go to Dublin to work. So they have to commute 2 hours to Dublin and then 2 hours back. So that would be the biggest deal breaker for me, is how would I make money if I moved to an eco village in Tipperary, started wearing hemp and growing my own veg. if you can't make money, you can't live. And there's not that much of a demand for yoga teachers down there. So putting that one on the long, long finger for a while. November. This is when I shadowed / taught at Samadhi teacher training, which is really cool. I couldn't believe it. I was like, people listen to what I'm saying. This is so bizarre. I actually do know more than I thought. And I went there initially to shadow Greg Walsh, and ended up he was bouncing stuff at me, I was bouncing stuff back, and it was really cool because I thought, this is it. This is the direction I want to go in. I know quite a lot more than I've learned a lot in the last few years. I've invested a lot of time, and I'm obsessed with what I do. So I do have stuff to share that I'm not getting a chance to share in a public class or sometimes in a workshop. But at the teacher training, you've got the audience, the people involved are fully into it as much as you are. So you can get a really good rapport going, and I can share all the stuff that I've learned, and I loved it. I was like, yeah, man, this is it. This is the direction I want to go in. So that was a massive deal for me. I also went over to London for the Calibrated Man workshop with Max Strom, hero of mine. Got to meet him as well, did the podcast with me. And I think what I liked about the Calibrated Man workshop was that it was not just about the physical asana, but it was also about how to be a better man, to not be to be conscious of how the people around you are affected by your actions and by your words, and to strive to be better. And I really want to share that message as well, and show men that there's not just one version of a man. You can talk about your feelings and still be a man, and still be tough at the same time, whatever tough means to you. December, this month, woohoo! I taught my Yoga for Men workshop, which is more my second one, but more Max Strom inspired, and we smashed the fundraising goal of over 500 quid for Pieta House, which is to raise money for suicide awareness for men, and that money goes directly to suicide prevention counselling therapists in Ireland, which is great. This is the direction I really want to explore, because more about yoga philosophy, not just the asana, and I'm gaining confidence to know that I have something to share that's more than just physical strength and how to do postures and party tricks, that type of thing. In December I also started collaborating with a photographer, which is really cool because I love photography, but there's only so much you can do on your own, and putting on the self-timer and trying to run in front of the camera is it's not ideal. So it was just great to collaborate with other people. My podcast reached 50 5-star reviews as well, this podcast, on iTunes. My classes are getting really busy. Most of the yogis that were with me at the start of the year are still with me now in my public classes, which is really cool. So what have I learned? Okay, so first thing is, probably the most important thing, is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. To know that if you feel comfortable all the time, something is wrong. This could be if you're teaching the same sequence every week, the same poses, or if you only do public classes because you're a bit afraid or anxious about doing workshops or events, or if you don't have the confidence to do a retreat, you don't feel like you're ready to be on a teacher training course, to be a trainer, you're never going to be ready. That's the truth. You can only prepare as best as you can, but you figure out by learning, by making mistakes. And through discomfort comes growth. Number 2, tell your story. No one can tell your story like you can. This could be, in your pocket, you have your own publicist. You have your smartphone. You have Instagram, you have Facebook, you can blog, you can do videos, audio. You don't need anyone else to market for you. For example, if you are teaching a workshop at a studio, you write the description, you do the poster, unless they've got an exceptionally good art department or marketing department. And at the same time, if the studio make a typo in the workshop description, tell them. Be protective over your reputation, because that's all you have. Number 3, know your worth. It doesn't matter how many years experience you have teaching yoga. It doesn't matter how many hours you've done on the Yoga Alliance. You are only as good as your last class. You are only as good as the people you bring through the door consistently. Do the same people come back to you? If they do, you're doing something right. If you're doing something right, you should be getting paid for that. Not the same as everyone else, but paid for the value you bring. And at the start of teaching yoga, it's good to be always be unassuming and be humble, but don't be a pushover either. You can know what your value is and leverage that. Number 4, learn to say no. When I first started teaching yoga, I would do prenatal classes. I teach at the local primary school, in the park, old people's homes. I just desperately needed the money. Any studio I approached said that they didn't need anyone for the moment. Their schedule was busy. So I'd say yes to anything. But now, luckily, I'm at a stage where I can pick and choose what work I take. And most recently, I've given up a brilliant client, a corporate client, because it was in the area of Pilates. And I only want to teach yoga. I don't want to teach anything else but yoga. Plus as well, I mean, they pay well, they treat me really, really well, but I can't develop it. It's not the type of, I mean, like I said, I want to teach yoga. I have other priorities for 2019, but I'm essentially giving up a massive chunk of my monthly wage because by saying no, because I know I have other projects I want to work on that initially won't give me an income or a big income, but long term they're more sustainable and they're more scalable as well. But it's really difficult to say no, and that's why you have to do it sometimes. Number 5, ask. As I said on the Dan Morgan episode 27, a closed mouth don't get fed. You have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. And this doesn't mean you have to be really abrasive and too forthcoming, but you make yourself available to opportunities. Let people know what you're looking to do. Manifest, set your intention. There's a lot of power in actually saying what you want, even talking to yourself a little bit. If you say it, it's almost like you're putting it out there, you're drawing a line in the sand saying, right, this is, maybe line in the sand is the wrong expression, but you're saying, okay, this is, I've said it now, so it's already becoming true in my mind. It's a bit like Muhammad Ali when he became world champion. He said it even before he's world champion, people laughed at him, but he manifested it. Number 6, specialize. This is controversial because some people say, cover all your bases. I don't think that's right. I think you should find out what you're good at, what you like doing, for want of a better word, maybe that you have a talent for, and stick to that. For example, for me, I was not athletic at all growing up. I was stiff as a board until I started doing yoga. I probably never did gymnastics or any kind of dance. So I won't be able to do, maybe ever, some of the really physically impressive things in yoga that you see in Cirque du Soleil. So that's not me doing a flow video where I'm being all floaty and sticking my leg over my head, or doing these crazy demonstrations like press handstands. It's probably never going to happen. I'm fine with that. What am I good at though? I think I'm a good communicator. I think I have a skill for talking, hopefully for listening too. So therefore, instead of doing demo videos, I'm doing a podcast, maybe video as well. Stick to what you're good at. And my last tip or lesson that I've learned is have mentors or people that you look up to. In fact, with that, don't put anyone on a pedestal though. Everyone is human. So I've learned that doing this podcast, that when you meet someone, don't kiss their backside too much. In fact, I've met some people that I idolized and they've really disappointed me. So everyone's human, but have people that you are inspired by. For example, for me, I would say 3 people that come to mind. Max Strom for his messaging, his way of communicating, his voice. Not just how he speaks, but the tone, everything. He's a fantastic communicator. Dice E. Decline for his warmth, his friendly manner in how he teaches, and his creativity. I love that geezer. Shout out to Dice. And Adam Husler, the way he has such a unique voice in the yoga world. He's very technical in his teaching. He also is, to me, is an incredible marketer or marketeer. I'm not sure what the difference is, but that guy has taste. Taste goes a long way. Who doesn't like good taste? Okay, speaking of manifesting, what do I hope for 2019? I'm excited about the year. I don't know whatever year you're listening to in this now. If it's the year 2020, let me know how I got on. So I got a few things here. The first one is to share yoga online. So to teach online. I would love to do this. I mean, what a buzz that would be. I love video, I love audio, and I love talking to people. So I'm not camera shy. Despite my average looks, I'm not camera shy. So hopefully teach online. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Secure more speaking events. So get away from just the physical side of things and champion yoga for healing people. Host my first ever Irish retreat. That'll be done, 100%. I may need to collaborate with someone though, so if someone's looking to collab with me, ideally someone that can cook, because I'd rather not do a retreat on my own. So if someone's looking to collab on a retreat, holler at your boy. That's me, by the way. Lead a teacher training. That's a big ask, I know, but I'm manifesting the shit out of this. So I'm already teaching on a teacher training, so why not lead one? I feel like I have the knowledge. I definitely have the confidence. It'll take time, but I think it's a great thing to aim for. Podcasts. More podcasts. I'm going to start a second podcast, I hope. I'd like to do more video content, and I don't want to dilute the Yoga Life podcast brand, if it has a brand. I want to start a second one, which is probably just me, because a lot of people don't like to be on camera, but I'm fine with it. And I think that there's a lot of power in the whole audio visual thing. Speaking of podcasting as well, get a sponsor. I mean, I spend a lot of hours doing this. Wouldn't mind getting a couple of pennies here and there for it, a few bob. But it has to be a sponsor that aligns with my morals, and also with my values. So, yeah, I'm being very careful about who I collaborate with in terms of sponsorship. But if you're listening to this, you want to sponsor me, holla. That sounded creepy as I whispered it. Okay, last couple. Do more charity events, more things for free. It feels good when you do stuff for other people. Weird, isn't it? So do more of that, basically. Yeah, I like doing that kind of stuff. And actually, that's it. And my last one, to be healthy, of course, in my mind, body, and my soul. So that's it. That's all I have to say. That's my year in review, the lessons I learned. And it'd be interesting to listen to this at the end of 2019 to see what I actually manifested, what came true. And I hope that really helped with you. If you would like to subscribe, I actually found out that if you subscribe or if you leave a review or rating, it makes the podcast easier to find. So people can find it easier online, and therefore more people listen, and it does better, and if it does better, then I'll do more, maybe do a second podcast. So look after yourselves. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. If it's not Christmas time when you listen to this, I hope you have a lovely week, a lovely day. Feel free to scroll over to another one of these episodes and have a listen to some chin wags. And that's all I have to say. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you again. Bye. Actually, one last thing. I'm always talking, you're always hearing from me. Well, I would like to hear from you. So I'm introducing a new feature to the podcast where we do a Q&A. I get loads of really good questions from people that text me on Instagram and Facebook, and I think it'd be really cool if we could make this a bit more interactive. So I'm going to start producing episodes based on the questions you ask. But instead of writing the questions, we're going to do audio, so leaving voicemails. This can be done on Instagram through direct message. You can leave a little 60-second voice note there, or you can do it through Facebook message as well. So leave me a little audio clip with a question you have. If it's a great question, I promise to play it on air and answer it. Give you a little shout out as well, if that's what you'd like. If you'd like to remain anonymous, just let me know. That's it, I'm done, I promise. Have a great Christmas. Chat to you next week.